Senator, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with this big housing bill. It passed with pretty overwhelming bipartisan support. Give us your best synopsis of what's actually in this bill, because there's so much.
So let me start with the fact that we have a housing crisis in America. Housing prices are just too high, and they're too high for everybody. People trying to buy a house, renters, just way too high. Reason is economics 101. We don't have enough supply. Depending on who you talk to, we're about 5 million housing units short of what we need. And that's true in all ways. We need more housing for first-time homebuyers, housing for seniors, housing for renters, housing for people with disabilities. We need housing in urban areas, in suburban areas, in rural areas. This is true all across America. For generations now, the federal government sat back and said, we'll do financing, but that's all we do. This is the first bill where Republicans and Democrats have come together and said, we are going to make a lot of changes to encourage more housing supply everywhere in the country, and recognizing that what's going to be helpful in Boston is not necessarily what's going to be helpful in Boise, right? What's going to be helpful in little towns may not be what's helpful in big. And that's why this has about 45 different provisions. And here's what they mostly do. They cut a lot of red tape, and that'll help drive down the cost of building new housing. They get private equity out of the business of buying up houses, so you don't have to compete with some Wall Street investor who can pay all cash. And we get more encouragement for less expensive ways to build, like manufactured housing. So a lot of provisions in here. Whole idea behind it is more is good. We need more housing in America. We've got a huge majority in the Senate that voted for it. Now we just need the House to take it up, vote it, and it'll go to Donald Trump's desk. He's already said that he supports it as written. So we could get something done here.
And I want to move on to other topics, but real quick,
Sure.
I heard you describe it as a meatball, so with lots of ingredients. So
Exactly, all those different pieces, any one of which you might not find satisfying for a full meal, but you put all that together and say, wow, that's delicious.
let's change gears.
Sure.
I want to talk about the Iran war and the video that you put out with Senator Van Hollen calling for Secretary Hegseth to be fired. Explain why, and then overall your concerns with the direction of the war so far.
My concerns with Secretary Hegseth start from when he first came into office. Remember, he's the guy who put war plans out on an unsecured list for a reporter to take a look at. But my particular concern here is that Secretary Hegseth came in and dismantled the parts of the Department of Defense that help make decisions and what civilian harm would occur from certain decisions. And then, having dismantled much of that work, it turns out that the evidence now seems to show that our fighters ended up bombing a school with little girls in it, killing about 175 people, children as young as 7 years old. The secretary should not have dismantled those curbs, and I believe it's time for him to step up and take some responsibility. And if he won't resign over this, then Donald Trump should fire him.
In the direction of the war right now, with where we are right now, it seems like maybe the president's looking for off-ramps. Are you concerned with, if we do leave, are you concerned with the direction if that were to happen? I mean, where are you standing with everything?
Look, we're in a real problem right now because the president and his administration cannot give a straight answer on why we started bombing Iran, what our goals are, what constitutes accomplishing what we wanted so that we have a path out. We've done a lot of damage, but it's not clear how we've advanced U.S. interests. And here's the thing. You may remember, Donald Trump ran for president promising two things over and over. He would lower costs on day one, and he would be a president of peace, not of war. And yet, bombing in Iran is costing more than $1 billion a day. Think about that. Enough money that we could actually help people who are struggling to pay for their health care. Enough money that we could actually help farmers who are having trouble being able to buy fertilizer so they can grow the food we need for next season. Enough money so that we could invest here at home instead of spending that blowing up things halfway around the world.
Related topic, artificial intelligence.
Yes.
One, with everything going on with Anthropic and the Pentagon and this agreement, one, what are your concerns with AI in general? But two, I want to ask you about this letter that you sent about XAI in particular. What are your concerns about XAI being involved? And in some ways, is the genie already out of the bottle? I mean, is a military going to start using AI, and why not us?
So look, here's the concern. XAI has access to heaven only knows what, to the records of our service members, their families, where there are weaknesses in America's defense, where we have equipment that's broken and we can't find the right parts for it, where we're behind schedule on different things that we're trying to manufacture, things that any enemy would be glad to know about. And that information has now been moved into the hands of a private outfit without the same guarantee of security and confidence that it can't be hacked. Plus, what are they using those data for? What exactly are they planning to do? Are they training our artificial intelligence on it, or are they planning to use it for other purposes? So here's my concern that I have raised. Where are the curbs? Tell me what the limits are to ensure that the data are safe. Tell me what the limits are on how they're going to be able to use America's own data. And understand this, Trump's own national security advisors are raising the same questions. They are concerned about what it means to have this independent for-profit outfit culling through the most sensitive national defense data. And I want to say this. I've sent a letter to Secretary Hegseth about this. You know, I sit on Senate Armed Services Committee. For me, this is one more reason that the Secretary either should resign or be fired by Donald Trump. If he can't say, here are the boundaries, here's how we've carefully addressed these problems, then he has no business being Secretary of Defense.
Senator, I'm way behind. I'm going to skip down the list.
Sure.
We have a producer that's working on the Farm Act, which was
yes.
with you, Senator Welch, and Senator Fetterman, giving farmers the right to repair. Can you just talk to us about why this is something you support, and then also, what are its chances? Obviously, Democrats don't have the majorities.
Right.
Where does that stand?
So, understand what this is about. A farmer buys this huge, expensive piece of equipment, a thrasher or combine, right? And it breaks right in the middle of the season when he's out there trying to harvest. Under the contract rules when he bought it, the company that sold it to him says only we get to repair it. You don't even get to repair your own equipment. Now that's just a second way for a giant corporation to be able to squeeze our farmers. So what our bill says is, once you bought it, you're entitled to fix it yourself. It seems pretty common sense to me. And I'll say this, I get it, Democrats are not in the majority, but we're going to keep fighting for this because it makes sense and because our farmers have been squeezed hard enough. They've gotten hit by Trump's tariffs. They've gotten hit now by the rising oil prices, which raise the cost of fertilizer. These are the people who not only keep Americans fed, they keep people around the world fed. And the idea of squeezing them financially even harder and tying them up. I mean, even if they're willing to spend the money, they can't always get somebody out to repair it on a dime. And they're in the middle of trying to get a crop in. I think this just makes so much sense. And I think that's a good reason to keep fighting for it, and that's what I'm going to do.
Before I get tackled by your comms team,
yes.
I'm going to combine everything else, all the rest of the questions, into one big question about elections, twofold. You were just stumping for Illinois candidates, zooming out. what is it that you think you're looking for from the Democratic Party moving forward? Part of that you have run before. Would you do so again? But then I'm going to try to combine that question with another one and talk about crypto. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent by these PACs. You got an F grade from one of those lobbying PACs. Are Democrats sort of making a mistake by not embracing crypto because it's a lot of money being spent? So 2 questions combined into one, because I know time's running out.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the future of the elections.
I've worried for a long time about the consequences of big money, dark money in politics. And right now, crypto's the latest. They want to come in and buy a Congress that will do exactly what they want. In other words, they're not out there pitching the legislation they want because it's good for Americans. They're out there pitching the legislation they want because it's good for the profitability of crypto and spending a little of those profits on trying to get the particular candidates who will cozy up to crypto. That undermines our whole democracy. What I believe is that as a Democratic Party, we need to stand fast on we will lower costs for American families. We've got the plans to do it, and we've got the courage to stand up to crypto and to stand up to big oil and to stand up to big pharma and to stand up to the other big money groups. And instead of just talking the talk, that we'll actually walk the walk.
I got about 500 more questions, but I'll call there for now. And
So good to see you. Hope we do it again.